We have some people joining us. Welcome everyone. As you're joining us into the webinar, we're going to get started in just a few minutes with Dr. Terry. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're doing our January Detox with Wild Rose. I know many of you are very excited to have this cleanse back in stores and to hear what Terry has to say this evening. So we're just waiting, letting everybody in, and we will be starting in just a few minutes. If you'd like to pop into the chat and say hi or send us an emoji and let us know if you've done the cleanse before, we would love to hear who's doing a second round as we're waiting. Welcome everyone. We're just getting started. Welcome everyone into the room. We will be starting in just a couple minutes. Awesome. We have a few people on their second rounds of the cleanse. Few people have already started this round in January. That's awesome to hear. We're going to learn a lot from Dr. Terry tonight. Wow, we have some people who have been doing this cleanse for decades. Excited to have it back in stores. That's awesome. Great. Well, as people are filing in, we're just welcoming you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's webinar, January Detox with Wild Rose. My name is Amber, and I am the event coordinator here at Nature's Fair. Thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you to our partner, Wild Rose, for helping us put on this event this evening. The presentation will be about 45 minutes long, and we'll be leaving some time at the end for any of your questions. But please use the chat on the side. We're going to be monitoring that throughout the presentation and taking down your questions. We'll be trying to answer as many as we can as we go. And any that we cannot answer, we'll be passing along to Dr. Terry at the end of the presentation. So ask all your questions over here in the chat, and we will definitely try to get to all of them. Before I hand over the presentation to Dr. Terry Willard, I would like to provide you with a bit of information on his very impressive background. Dr. Terry is a trailblazer in the world of herbal medicine and the founder of Wild Rose. He has dedicated decades to studying the medicinal properties of plants and is widely regarded as one of North America's leading clinical herbalists. Today, Dr. Terry is going to guide us through a powerful approach to resetting our health with the right foods and herbs. Whether you're looking to kickstart a detox, improve your energy, or create a strong foundation for your wellness goals, you are in the right place tonight, and you are going to learn all about all of that with Dr. Terry. So without further ado, we will welcome Dr. Terry Willard.
Hi. Nice to see you guys. Well, I guess all we have to do now is start the presentation and do it, but I'm really thrilled to be with you guys in central BC, mostly, I presume, but some of the lower mainland. I was just there yesterday, actually. And I just finished my 12th day yesterday also. So I'm freshly off the detox. And
That's
I'm
awesome.
really
We can't
anxious
wait
for all your questions.
Great. Let's get started. Thanks, Dr. Terry.
Yep. I'll start as soon as I start seeing the slides. And you're starting the slides?
I have the slides up on my end, so it might just be a little bit of delay.
Okay.
Like when we were just reviewing.
Aha, we've got some. There we are. Okay, great. Well, here we are. It is January. And this is one of the most common times of the year to do the detox. So I'm glad some of you are joining us. And we'll talk more about timing as we move along on this platform here. Now, I got to say, this is a platform that I'm not all that used to. And so there might be some technical things. Whoops. I think, did I say a whole bunch of things and you didn't hear it? Can you hear me now? Okay, well, we'll see. This is a platform that I've really not used before, so bear along with us while I'm getting over some of the glitches. But as I was saying, that's really nice to see you guys in January here and work with that so we can work along with this whole overall thing. January is one of the most popular times in Canada to do the cleanse, and I just finished my 12th day yesterday, so I'm on day 13. I'm off of it. I still haven't wandered off the diet yet because, well, I just feel so great to be able to do it this way as it is. But let's just jump in and get to the ideas. We're going to go through several different things in this, and don't hesitate to build up those questions here, because sometimes the question and answer period, well, it's especially for you to get your answers or your questions answered so we can work with that. But it is a time that we can really be able to appreciate the different nuances and look with it. But what we're really trying to do is show you how the idea is to reset during this sequence. And one of our things that we're going to concentrate on here is the concept of health span compared to lifespan. This is a very important subject. It doesn't matter if you live to 100, if you live your last 30 years in decrepitude, as it were. That's a technical word, by the way. But really what we want to do is see how we can live and feel vibrant for a longer period of time. And that's one of the major keys of the detox. In fact, this kind of calorie restriction that we have on the detox here and this kind of cleanse is the only thing that's ever been proven scientifically to work on longevity. Yes, we're working an awful lot with longevity these days. Being an old guy like myself, it's important and dear to my heart. But the idea here is to work on health span, not just lifespan. The detoxification has its guidelines. We'll go through a whole bunch of those ideas, and we're going to look at what are the friendly diets that we can have during the winter season. Of course, doing the detox at this time of year is quite different than doing it in the summer and the spring. Probably one of the biggest differences is a lot of people like to do the detox because they can lose weight, and it does help that, but not as much in January as it does in, the spring or whatever the case may be. And we'll look at that a little bit more and see what that is. But the idea here is what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and all the overall benefits. And we're also going to look at 3 different cleanse programs you can do here and how you can hack the cleanses to make them a little easier for you and also to work with the overall processes. So let's just work at why we want to work a little bit with the liver. We're going to go into this in this talk, and we're going to talk about the ecological aspects of harvesting the herbs and stuff like that. So I've been around for a long time. In fact, Wild Rose College is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. We've been around for that long, 5 decades. And anyone who's interested, in the June the 6th through 9th, we're having a great big party over in Alberta where we started, the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. It's going to be a herb gathering. We're going to have lots of lectures there and stuff like that. We'd love to welcome you down to the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, just outside of Calgary, so you can get to see some of the top speakers in the industry and look at our alumni over the years and talk with a whole bunch of other students to see if it's the right way for you. Again, we're expecting a good turnout here, and we're really thrilled with that whole thing. But I've been doing this for a long time. I've got several books out. Unfortunately, some of them are out of print right now. But my major focus on the past has been with clinical studies and working with patients. I'm not doing live clinical practice anymore. I do take a few patients over the internet, etc. But mostly what I'm doing is writing content for the Wild Rose College, writing new courses and upgraded courses and working with some of the things like that. But I really like to use herbs. I like to use flower essences and many other various things like that. Okay, that doesn't work there. I have to get used to it. So here we are celebrating 2025. Isn't that great? We've made it this far. Boy, when I started this whole thing back in 1975, it was basically a time where, well, I was living in a teepee, getting and homing into my survival skills because we didn't think we were going to make it much further than that with oil crashing and all the various things. And now we're already 50 years later. But what we're really talking about here is having better digestion, better mood, energy, better skin, less pain, and weight loss and maintenance over the next little while that we're working with this. And I'll get the right buttons here. Again, as I've already pointed out, we're trying to look with health span more than lifespan. Okay, they kind of went a little crazy on me there. Okay. I'm having electrical problems here. And I do have 2 levels of backup, so I'm hoping we're making it through. But I noticed the main building, all the lights are off in it, but we're all right here. We're going to be working with that. But talking about old age, I think Sir Francis Bacon said it the best back in 1561 through 1626. He said, I will never be old. Old age is always 15 years older than I am right now. So I'm in my mid-70s right now, and I don't feel old at all. Maybe that's because I just came off a detox. But the point here is that we can stay young. 70 is the old 50, as it were. So what we're doing is looking at that. We're really trying to keep a young, vital force in us for as long as we comfortably can and expand our middle age era so it goes out a longer times than before. And one of the things that we can do is do a cleanse or a detox on a regular basis. This is something our ancestors did on a very regular basis. But one of the biggest ailments in Canada is digestive ailments. And of course, that's where the center of gravity of most of the detox is. It's on the gastrointestinal tract and working with that. So I don't know how many people in Canada have digestive issues in general, but we can see several of them are as high as 25%. You add them all together, a lot of people have periods of times. And again, especially at this time of year, after the festive season. Father, for I've sinned. I can't believe I ate the whole thing over the festive season. Give me a detox. And that's kind of been a mantra around Canada for the last 50 years or so that we've had it on the market to be able to work with. One of the most common things we see is GERD. GERD is a very particular thing. This is kind of like acid reflux or gastroesophageal reflux disease, or sometimes just called heartburn. It's very common, and at least 12 to 13%, or 5 million Canadians, experience that on a regular basis. But a lot of people have it after the festive season with all that food that's fermenting, all those sweets and stuff like that. It just gets in our gut area and kind of expands there. Really, what GERD is things going down a one-way street the wrong way. Things are supposed to go in the mouth and, well, go out the other end. And what happens is that gets all clogged up for various reasons. May it be fermentation, may it be weak muscles, may it just be weight, may it be all kinds of things. And the major thing that the detox was designed for 50 years ago was to keep things going down a one-way track the right way. Now, some people are going to experience this as large amounts of bowel movements. Some people are just going to get soothed in the digestive tract. But really what we're trying to do is soothe that whole train there and work through. Constipation, 25% of Canadians are constipated on a semi-regular basis. So constipation, well, this is supposed to work with constipation. If it's not working on your constipation, we have to look at other issues that might be going on. It might be that you're not taking enough fluids with it. It might be things that you're just trying to get rid of some congestion and stuff like that. And it's going to take a little bit of a time to move that on. But we'll be working with that. IBS or IBD, irritable bowel syndrome, and irritable bowel disease are very, very common in Canada. In fact, Canada has the highest level of IBS in the world, which is 18% here and 11% globally as it is. That's a fairly interesting thing. Sometimes people think that, well, maybe Canadians are a little bit uptight, and that's tightening up their digestive tract and making it. Maybe it has to do with our food. Some of us eat too many carbs and stuff like that. Now, again, I had a situation where everything just went kablooey on me on the screen. Did it go kablooey on you? Can you still see the screen? Well,
yeah, I can see everything still.
Okay.
Can our viewers see everything?
We're getting some yeses there, so it looks like we're all right. So IBS and IBD, they're very significant. Some people feel you shouldn't do a detox if you have IBS, IBD, or Crohn's colitis, something along those lines. And actually, in reality, it depends on what stage. There's basically two stages of IBS and IBD, and there's the constipated stage and there's the acute diarrhea stage. And if you're in the diarrhea stage, we don't want you to do the detox. Wait until you get over that stage. But if you're in the constipated thing, it's one of the best things. So at one point in time, the government used to make us have a warning on it. You couldn't do it if you had IBS or IBD. But now it's realized that it's one of the best things you can do for those things if you're doing it in the right cycle. So we have to look at that a little bit with individuals depending on how they are. SIBO, very common. It's a buildup of bacteria in your small intestines. It should really be in your bowels is what it is. When I first started in practice, it wasn't that common at all. We'd hardly ever see it. It was a rare disease. But starting in about the early to mid 90s, it started creeping in. Now, 3 decades later, it's one of the more common things that comes in. Up to 80% of us have had this at some time in our life. And certainly an awful lot of people have IBS and IBD, or really lots of times it's SIBO itself. So this is being discovered by modern medicine and certainly functional medicine to work along. So really what we're trying to do is work with the microbiome in our intestinal tract. And that's one of the other biggest things about the detox. We're trying to keep our belly buddies good. We can have good guys and we can have bad guys in our bowels. And the idea, if we have the good guys, they won't creep into the small intestine and cause all kinds of problems and stuff like that. So that really comes down to how we treat them. It's what we feed them. Now, if we feed them a bunch of junk food and crack and cocaine and all this kind of stuff, they go crazy. And they cause the bloat and the IBS and all the rest of these kinds of things, or the whole SIBO phenomena. So the idea here is to work with that to be able to cleanse out their food supply. And we take out their food supply and keep everything going down a one-way street the right way, then it doesn't happen. It's actually pretty simple. All you have to do is follow the instructions. Now, what is the best time of the year to do the detox? Well, this is one of the best times. But The real answer, I'm always asked that, what's the best time of the year to do the detox? And I'd have to say, anytime you can fit it in. If you've got 12 days set aside that you can do it. Now, that doesn't mean you have to quit work or take a vacation, even though that would be nice, huh? But you really can fit it in anywhere. We got little schemes and little hacks if you need to go and do that special anniversary or that special business meeting or something like that along the line, that we can work with it. But it really comes down to what's convenient for you. You can do it virtually anytime, almost anytime you want to, except for one of the festive seasons, because it's really good to celebrate the festive seasons. But over the years, I've seen a lot of people actually like to do it over the Christmas or the winter festive season there, because they don't want to get involved with all the turkey and stuff like that they might eat. Some people want to retox before they detox, and that's all right too. So it really fits into your schedule. And again, I'm going to work in that a little bit more detail in this. Now, typically these slides are a little bit more dynamic and moving around, but for some reason this one here is a static slideshow that we've got here, so it doesn't show up as easily, so things are not moving around. But I start off with saying our ancestors cleansed twice a year, and they ate organic food no matter what. That's all they had. They didn't have commercially pesticide-ridden foods. They did not exist. And so literally over 99% of the history of our species, we've ate organic food. And we always had different fasts and various cleanses. It might have been called Ramadan. It might have been called Lent. It might have been called Passover. Or it might have been called vision seeking. There's many different things. And virtually every culture had these cleansing periods. Now, if I really wanted to talk about what is the best of the best, well, of course, the best is in the spring and the fall. And the reason the spring and the fall is the best time, because this is a natural cycle of our planet. What do I mean by that? Well, when the flowers come out and the leaves drop, these are signaling big changes in our environment. And we can actually use nature, old Gaia here, as a momentum to work along with our cleanses. So I'd have to say, if I really wanted to say what was the best time of the year to do it, it's in the spring. For over 30 years or so, I brain hooked my patients into doing a cleanse right after Easter, because that's when the springtime starts. They do a little bit of a festival around the Easter time, and it doesn't really religion you are or whatever the case may be. It's not centered around that. It's centered around the feasting and stuff like that. Then after that, you do it. And in Canada, we can do it just after our Thanksgiving in the fall. And those are two times it's really set. But by far the most popular time to do it is at this time of the year, in January, as I've already said. Now, at this time of year, I get all kinds of emails and stuff like that saying, you must have changed the detox quite a bit, because last time I did it last May, I lost 12 pounds. And this time I'm only losing 2 pounds. What's up with that? Well, it's very easy to come up with that solution. The answer to this comes from the bears. What do I mean by that? Well, this time of the year, the bears are hibernating, and they're literally sleeping and all cuddled up and stuff like that, doing the things like a lot of animals are. Our body literally, because of the pressure of nature, kind of goes into hibernation in the late fall and the winter. And we tend not to lose weight. In fact, our body fights against losing weight. So losing 2 or 3 pounds at this time of year might be equivalent to 10 or 12 in the fall. Now, don't get me wrong, the detox was never designed as a weight loss program. But over the years, we've found that a lot of people do it, especially in May, as a cleansing process to do it. And it might be a little bit more dramatic and a little bit more cleansing in May than it might be in January. That's not a reason not to do it at this time of year, because really we still have to get rid of that stuff, and we still have to work with our microbiota, because our little bowel buddies, they are really important. In fact, we're now starting to realize that they're the puppet masters of us. It's hard for us to believe this sometimes. Well, first of all, it's hard to believe that science doesn't even know how many cells we have in your body. What's up with that? You'd think they'd study it. But we have more microorganisms, microbiome in us, than we do cells. The current idea is that there's 10 times as many non-human cells as there are human cells in our body. So they outrun us 10 to 1. This is very significant because we think that everything works with genetics and everything works with science like that. And that's what modern science says. And yeah, I got a PhD in this stuff. I really like science, but sometimes they don't look deep enough and they're not really looking or got the pulse on the whole thing, as it were. And we really work with natural cycles. And that's how we have to look at it also. That's the timing of the year, and that's how we feel right now. But really what we want to do is get those bodies working. As they say, some people think that our DNA is like a computer, but there's 10 to 100 times more DNA in our microbiota than there is in us. In fact, we have a fairly small genome. We have less of a genome than corn does, or a fruit fly and stuff like that. The humans only have 20,000. Some of them have 30, 34,000 genes. But how our activity works is through the gene power of our microbiome. They're working along with us. They're cleaning it up. They're doing a lot of the garbage work and stuff that we don't want to do ourselves, that we don't want to concentrate on it. So it's kind of like a lot of the tasks that we do on our maintenance, our autonomic system is kind of like throwing things up to the cloud, and our bowel buddies and our other microbiome, or should I say our holobiome, is really working at that. So lots of our process are sent over to, oh my God, it's AI of the microbiome, or the cloud, as it were, in computing. That's really how we are. So if we don't have good computing power from those, well, we're just going to have brain fog. I'm sure some of you have really seen that. Also, the whole overall cleanse is really redressed on calorie restriction. We're trying to lower the calories as much as possible, but still keep you happy and things like that. Calorie restriction is one of the biggest things. In fact, the only scientific thing that's been proven to increase health span, be able to do it. So really what we're trying to do is improve our insulin sensitivity, reduce our fasting glucose and insulin concentrations in our body, and work with that. That's why after 3 to 7 days, we start feeling much better. When we're not completely dependent on those carbs, when we're not sugar junkies, let's be facing the whole thing. When we're not that, we start feeling better, because insulin, even though it's a very important hormone in our body, it kind of corrodes our body to a degree. It causes all kinds of problems in it. So that literally helps you feel better and cleanses your whole body out. And that's what we want to do. Keep the cleansing going, but keep the calorie restriction in there as much as possible. Because you see, we really metabolically have two phases here. One is the anabolic and one is the catabolic thing. Just to sum it up in real simple housekeeping, anabolic takes energy and makes large molecule, or takes little molecules and makes large molecules. Catabolic takes large molecules, break them down into small molecules, and gives you energy. This is what a cleanse does. This is the cleansing stage. This is the building stage. So one of the axioms that I tell my students in their first days, you cleanse a little, build a little, cleanse a little, build a little. While you're building, you're using energy. While you're cleansing, you're releasing energy into your body. And that's the kind of switch that really affects us. Now, that switch takes 12 hours to function in. So if we're out with the carbohydrates for 12 hours in a row, we'll go automatically into catabolic stage. This is great, because really what it's doing is eating up the little gremlins in our body and spitting them out and give us more energy. That's our sleeping time. So literally we can be losing weight in our sleep. Well, that's all right. We don't have to be doing workouts as much. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't do workouts or anything like that. I'm really trying to say that true weight loss only comes from the catabolic stage that in this switch, and it takes 12 hours. And that's one of the reasons that you can work with this. This is called autophagy, metabolic autophagy. Auto meaning self, phagy meaning eating. Literally, our body starts eating itself and getting rid of things. And one of the first things they do is get rid of some of the fat, because they take some of the fat and the oils and changes it over to an energy source. And this goes through a metabolic thing that changes in the 3rd day, the 7th day, and the 11th day. And these metabolic phases will really be what you feel. When you're going through the detox, an awful lot of people feel excuse my language, they feel like crap for the first 3 days. They don't know if they can do it. But as soon as that 72 hours is up, they stop using carbohydrates as their metabolic currency because you're not getting enough. It's kind of like you got your pockets full of money. You want to spend it and you want to do all those fun things. But once you don't have it, well, you have to go up to the ATM and get some more money. Or in this case, you have to go deeper into your system and be able to find the metabolic functions in there. And so you start using oils and fats and stuff like that. So the third day, we switch partially from carbohydrate metabolism over to oil and ketone metabolism. So really you start a keto diet automatically after 72 hours of doing it. Now, it's not a complete thing. It's just the everyday mundane things that happen. On the 7th day, what happens is a whole different change. The body's going, oh my God, this guy's serious. He's not going to give me carbs. So it switches it up. So you go to another level of ketosis or another level of oil metabolism in your body. And that's where the real work really works. And that's why people come in after the 7th day and they say, hey, doc, I can't believe I ate like that before. I feel so good right now. I want to do this diet for the rest of my life. And that's when I'm willing to bet them $50 they're not gonna. Even though they think they're gonna get seduced by those little sugar molecules and those little treats and all that marketing out there that's telling us we're not happy unless we're eating their product. And we get seduced, and within 3 to 6 months, people are back on their old diet. And that's another time to haul in a detox to be able to do it. And that's why we're saying a person should do a detox 2 to 4 times a year. But one of the biohacks you can have it, if you do intermittent fasting while you're doing the detox, you get more bang for the buck. You can do it just normally. You don't have to intermittent fast or any of those things. But if you do intermittent fasting, which means you eat 8 to 12 hours and don't eat 12 to 16 hours. Now, it depends on what your age is, what is the best system you should do. In my age, it's better to not fast for more than 12 hours because sarcopenia works in there, and you can get protein wasting, and that can really affect your muscles and stuff like that. But when you're younger, you can do it longer. A lot of people, when they're doing this, they go, well, what I'm going to do is I won't eat until noon, and then I'm going to eat my last meal at 8 o'clock at night, and that gives me the 8 hours. I got the 16 hours. That kind of works, and it's technically part of intermittent fasting. But a lot of studies have proven if you shift that whole thing earlier in the day, it's very important, because intermittent fasting and keto really has one other prime thing that most people forget. And that really key here is don't eat anything 3 hours before you go to bed. You're trying to go to sleep. Because if you sit there in a bloated state, if you work hard all day long, you don't have any time, you're getting home and work really late, and you eat then and go to bed because you're so exhausted, that food's going to bloat in your intestinal tract over that period of time and has some problems. So we ask at least, I mean, that's going to happen once in a while. We all live real lives and we get to do it. But if you try to consistently finish your meals at least 3 hours before you go to bed. So if you do 12 and 12, that means, let's say you eat your first meal at 7 o'clock in the morning, and that means the last food you can eat at 7 in the evening. That's not that hard to do. It's that snacks between the 7 o'clock and midnight that are really going to get you in the long run. They're going to pull you down. And at least and you don't have to follow this diet all the time. In fact, it's better to switch back and forth to various diets. And it's been proven just doing that for 12 days, twice a year, is beneficial. If you do it 4 times a year, it's fantastic. Now, the keto diet is a little bit different than the intermittent fasting. Its rules are high fat, low carbohydrates, and moderate proteins. In this case, well, we've already got low carbs. We've already got low proteins, not moderate proteins. So all we have to do is have a little bit more oil. So that's why you can eat avocado. You can have olive oil and stuff like that. Certain oils are really good, and that'll push us a little bit more that way. Again, even if we do that 2 days a week, especially with the protein letting 2 days a week, that can help us, or 1 month a year, or 1 week a month, or something along that. Doing the detox twice a year will satisfy that. Do it a little bit more, it really goes more into the longevity. Well, you've got the general idea. I don't want to go on and on about this. Now, another thing that's really important And this comes from Japan, and it's been shown in the blue zones around the world. But one of the biggest blue zones is Okinawa, and they go Hachi or Hara Hachi Bu. And this is really stopping eating when you're 80% full. You don't go, oh my God, I can't believe I ate the whole thing. And yeah, that's good at festival time once in a while. But on a regular basis, it's good to not eat too much, not fill your plate too much and have a little bit less. And another very big part of Hara Hachibu is to eat mindfully, to kind of bless your food, maybe say a prayer over it, that is your inclination, or just smell the food and appreciate it and thank the chef that made it or whatever. It's actually been proven if you're a part of making the food and smell it and stuff like that, you can produce 40% more digestive enzymes than you would normally. So literally you're taking digestive enzymes by just smelling it. Our digestive enzymes going up. And if you don't believe me, think about it next time you go in a mall or something like that. You smell those cinnamon buns. Oh my God, all of a sudden I want cinnamon buns. I don't even need cinnamon buns. Why do I want cinnamon buns? Why do I want popcorn as soon as I go to a movie theater? It literally gets our juices running inside of our body. And we're like, oh yeah, popcorn. That's why I go to movies. I go to the movies for the popcorn. It's a phase that really works with us, that really stimulates the nervous system in our digestive tract. And our little buddies are jumping up and down. Yeah, popcorn, popcorn. We want popcorn. Anyway, so what we're trying to do with this diet is have 20% or less of acid-forming foods. We'll look at those momentarily. 80% or more should be alkaline and neutral. So that's part of the whole technology around this. Because of that, we want no flour products, no cakes, cookies, breads, buns, and pasta. No dairy products. Butter's okay. And if you want to put a question in, why not butter into the question part, we can talk about that more later. But you can have all the butter you want to, but no dairy, especially A1 dairy. A2 is not as big a deal, but we still shouldn't have it. No tropical fruits and no sweets. These are all counterindicated in the whole program of the detox. So literally we're talking 20% from this column and 80% from these two columns. And there's a little sheet that comes with the detox so you can find out more about it. When I say 20% of these proteins, an exception to that rule is fish. You can have all the fish you want to. The omega-3 fatty acids outweigh any other issue. Now, I know a lot of people say, wait a second, I thought we're not supposed to eat fish because of all the mercury in it. Just forget about it. What I really mean by that is a lot of those statistics came along when they didn't really understand how it works. Most of the mercury that's actually in the fish does not cross into our blood system, and it doesn't count unless it's in the blood system. You see, we're like a big donut. One end of the donut's here, and the other end of the donut's down in the nether regions. And as long as it's in the whole of the donut, it's not really in the donut. Or in this case, as long as it's just going through that canal. Because most of us don't digest our fish well enough to get the mercury in. Plus, the mercury is not, you want to eat low mercury fishes as much as possible. But we have found over the years that that's been a very good strategy. But these are foods you can eat, but you don't want to overdo any of them. You can even have coffee, but you got the choice of having it black, or black. Because we don't want to put cream in it because that's a dairy. Now you can, if you really desire, to take one of the milk substitutes, like almond milk or stuff like that, but it's hardly worth it because it just whitens the coffee, doesn't make it change any better. And about 10 or 15 years ago now, I had an apprentice say, well, what about coconut milk? Can I have that? And another apprentice at that point in time said, wait a second, you can't have any tropical fruit. That means you can't have it. And I go, what part of coconut makes you think it's a fruit? Do you think it might be a nut? That's why they call it coconut. But it actually is a drupe. But the long and short of it, it's not a sweet fruit that we can a problem. So you can definitely use coconut milk as long as it's not sweetened. In fact, you can even use coconut cream for thickening agents and something to work along with it. The alkaline foods are things like almonds are a great one. A lot of people put almond butter on corn thins or rice cakes or something along those lines. Hazelnuts will also be worked with. Millet, buckwheat. We have a great recipe these days where we're making a kind of a buckwheat bread. It's a kind of a natural wild sourdough buckwheat bread that's really working well. Apples, peaches, pears, plums, and the berries. Popcorn, there is a God. And potatoes, pumpkin seeds, fresh tomatoes. Now, this is interesting. Fresh tomatoes, even though they might taste acidic, are actually alkaline. Cooked or canned tomatoes are into the acid side. Now, you can still have a little bit of them, but this whole group has to be 20%. So if you're putting tomato sauce with it, that means you can have less of the eggs or beans or less of the other things that you might want, like a piece of beef or some lamb or something like that. Neutral foods are mostly the garlics and onions and vegetables and things along those lines. You can have all of these ones you want, the whole thing. Also, we want to work with the antioxidants as much as we can, working along. So many of the different antioxidants work with it. One of the best antioxidants is glutathione. We find it's better to get it out of your food and not get it out of the tablet. But sometimes you can get the tablets to be able to do that. They're not as efficient as out of your food. Now, you can't have this grapefruit if you're doing the simple detox or the classic detox, but you can do it on the liver one that we're going to be talking about momentarily here. And I realize I've taken a little bit of time on the front end, and I better speed up a little bit, or I'm not going to have time for enough questions and answers. Again, I talked already a little bit about it. It's our holobiome, which is bigger than our actual microbiome. Actually, it's all microbiome, but a lot of people are just considering it part of the digestive tract now. So the holobiome really has all the bacteria on and around it. We have way, way more DNA there. So we have more computing power in that than we actually do. So we really want to keep our bugs healthy. We want to feed our bugs right because they're our workers. They're the ones who do an awful lot of our work for us, and they also process a lot of our data, so it's very significant. Some of the foods that you can also do is have gut favoring foods. Unpasteurized sauerkraut. We make our own sauerkraut here, and you can use it on this. So in the older system, we said you couldn't have any fermented foods, but over the years of studying it deeper, we can find out any kind of thing that's been brine or salt-based fermented is quite all right in the detox. You don't want a sugar-based fermentation. You don't want a dairy-based one. Really what we're doing is we're working with that. So sauerkraut will really be good for this. Kimchi has a little bit of sugar in it, so it depends on how much sugar you put in. A lot of it will be used up in the metabolism, but there's many of these things. Raw vegetables, unpasteurized vegetables, whole grains. You can have the whole grains, but not the powder / flours of the grains. But here's a big question. Remember I talked to you about that buckwheat sourdough bread? You can use it because guess what? Buckwheat is not a grain. It's a cereal, but it's not a grain, as it were. So you can have that, as it were. So you can have several of these things. You can have things that are made out of beans. So there's some bean chips on the market that you can use it. You can use things that are made out of buckwheat that work on that, but you can't have the wheat. You can't have the rice flour, etc., etc. You can have it in puff forms. That's why you can have rice cakes or corn thins or things along those lines. Coconut's good, medicinal mushrooms, even though you can't have ordinary mushrooms like Monty's mushrooms or mushrooms that you might cut up and put on your pizza, but the medicinal mushrooms are quite all right. And yes, you can have seaweed along with this whole program. Some of the winter vegetables that are really good here, well, you can read the list as easy as I can, but if we can eat in season, it really helps. Now, all of these have a different form of starch in them. Probably the cabbage family is the best, but all these things here will feed our microbiota quite a bit. They're high in probiotics and high in prebiotics to be able to feed them, and they're all right on the cleanse. It's the starches like the breads and stuff like that, the pastas, things like that we don't want to eat. But we can eat these as much as we want to. We can make big soups, and what we do here is have great big, oven pan roasted vegetables and mix that with our diet and stuff like that. It's kind of like what you'd think would be peasant food is the right kind of food to eat here. Because really what we're trying to do is reset our body at this time of year, be able to enjoy life, but have a good hearty meal. Different than we might want to do in the spring or the summer. We're going to eat different foods. We want to eat with the season. So the benefits that we're looking at for the detox, there are many. Again, as I said, for lifespan, the whole calorie restriction cleansing that we're talking about is the only thing that's been scientifically proven to be able to increase health span and lifespan. So it would be called a longevity program for sure. It's the basis of all longevity programs. Better digestion, increased energy with that whole catabolic stage. You're releasing some of the energy you set up for a long time in your body, and it's just sitting there stagnating. It gives you a better mood because you're not having the mood swings with the sugar, but more importantly, you've got the increased energy, so you have better moods. Less pain and inflammation. Virtually all inflammation comes from your intestinal tract. So even if you have arthritis in your fingers or your toes and stuff like that, it actually starts in the digestive tract. It starts in how the microbiota is working throughout our whole body. It contributes that. So we might need to use extra herbs, but the cleanse, the detox really works that. Improves your immune system so you don't get colds and flus as much. And probably one of the biggest things, it reduces brain fog. It reduces mental fog that we might have through various cleanses and stuff like that. So we'd be looking at that. Who shouldn't do a cleanse? Well, as you can see from the picture, probably the biggest people who shouldn't do a detox is someone who's pregnant. And the reason for that is you're moving a whole bunch of toxins out of your body. You don't want a chance some of it getting into the fetus. Even when you're breastfeeding, it's important not to detox. It doesn't matter if you're just kind of placating breastfeeding, meaning feeding your child once a day as they go to sleep or whatever the case may be. That's not enough to cause any problems there. But if it's more than 50% of their sustenance, more than 50% of their food, you shouldn't detox. Now, there are people who are breastfeeding need to detox for whatever reason. So you might want to pump a whole bunch before and feed them by bottle for a little bit of time while they do the detox and come back right over that. People have really... teenagers, it's really hard to get a teenager to do a detox. There's just a lot of fighting and a lot of grumbling in that situation. So we're really suggesting that it wouldn't be a good time to do it. It's really hard to get them to follow that diet. They just don't understand it. And over the years, we found that that's a group that, there are certain situations we do it, but we try not to. Really older adults, like over 75, or as soon as you get to my age, you have to watch cleansing. Now, I've been doing it for so long, it really fits in really well for me. And if a person's in good health, you don't have to worry about it. But the biggest thing is we don't want to go through too much weight loss at a certain age. Contrary to popular opinion, if I have a person that's 65 that's 10 pounds overweight, they have a better chance of health span and lifespan than a person that comes in as 10 or 15 pounds underweight. That extra bias or the extra ballast, as I would say, would really help them. So I'm not saying people over 75 can't detox. I'm planning on detoxing on a regular basis up into my late 80s or 90s at least. People have big nourish problems or people have eating disorders. We have to watch that. If a person has really, really significant blood sugar problems, so if they have minor diabetes or something like that, or minor sugar metabolism, we can still do it, but we have to monitor their blood sugar because lots of times they're taking drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, that are relating to their diet when they're taking a lot of sugar, which they're counteracting each other. So it might be too much when you're going through a cleanser, you don't have sugar. So if you know how to monitor it properly, you can do it, or be under a practitioner care during that period of time that can monitor it. All of these things really are something you can be working on. So I'm the formulator of these, and I've been doing it for a very long time. I not only formulate for Wild Rose, I formulated for countries all over North America. So a lot of things in the health food stores and some of the things in the multi-level marketing streams have been created by me. So what we're really offering here is 3 different types of cleanses. 2 of them are called detoxes. They all used to be called detoxes in the past, but our government's gone on a bandwagon here, and they're really changing the rules around a little bit. And since we wanted to reintroduce this, we had to go through all kinds of bureaucratic stuff. It took us a couple of years of getting through the government things to finally get it. But the classic herbal detox and the gentle detox, they're almost exactly the same. They're both 12 days. They work on a cleanse. This one is a little bit more laxative, and some people, especially in the United States, were complaining about it being too laxative. So we brought out a milder version, which a lot of people like to do. I tend to like the gentle detox, and my wife, for example, she likes the stronger detox, how it works. Again, these work on all the things I've saying, including working on our metabolic rates and working on them, and it depends on how you do it. Now, the liver support, which used to be called liver detox, don't get confused here, but our government has now said you can't detox the liver. It's impossible because the liver is detoxing itself. Of course it is. That's what we're really trying to stimulate. But really, sometimes we need to support the liver to do this a little bit better. Now, this is a 15-day kit for several reasons. One of the things is when you're doing the liver support, you're doing it for multiple months often. These you're just doing 1, sometimes 2 kits back to back, and you're doing that 2 to 4 times a year. If a person has fatty liver problem or something along that, or some kind of liver metabolism things, we might do this 3 to 6 and sometimes even 9 months to be able to clear that up with a lot of simple fatty acids like evening primrose oil or krill. I really like quite a bit, and or fish oil will work with it. So the ordinary classic detox, and as you notice, it's got both retailer awards and consumer awards, and it goes back literally decades of how many awards it's got. It's got 4 ingredients in here, the billy herb, which is really the center of gravity of everything. It's really working on the liver, how the liver works. That's the most important thing. A lot of people think it's just pooping. That's what you want to do, and therefore the laxa herb is the center of gravity. No, it certainly makes everything go on one-way street the right way, but the center what's doing the heavy lifting here is the billy herb, and that's why it's in all 3 of these kits. The clara herb, if you were confused that in the past it was called cleanse herb, the government decided no, cleansing is such a fad, you can't have that. So they made us change it. So all I had to do is change that 1 letter there and say it, because the concept of alternatives, when I was on the expert advisory committee to our federal government, we argued that alternatives was a tradition they had to go with because they agreed that anything that was over 50 years old, they had to go with because it would work with. And even though there's been 10,000 kits a month for 50 years of this, they wouldn't let us clear on that. So now we're saying it's not a traditional alternative. It's a kidney and lymphatic cleanser, and it's really a clearing. But it does clear the body out of the toxins. The laxa herb, now the key here is this Cascara sagrada. And it is the thing that it's like any other herb. It's like sometimes a wine is a good year and sometimes it's not so good year. It varies with the seasonal things with the actual amount of anthraquinones in it. So we're trying to readjust that to make sure we're all right, because some people are feeling that this latest batch is not making them have bowel movements as much, is not getting as much griping. So we hear it and we're working with that. And the one that's working on your urinary tract and working on your adrenal glands and working on that is the kidney. So we do 2 of these tablets twice daily. Here it says 2 to 4 tablets daily for you to do it. It's a little bit different because the government thinks we're supposed to take them all along. So they create rules and we have to follow them. They don't want to rely on 50 years of clinical data under many different organizations around North America to be using this. They read in the book, and because that book had to be right, that's the only reference they've got. They're agreeing with that. Cascara sagrada, as I already pointed out, is one of the active ingredients of the things, and it can vary quite a bit in how it works. Ginger is in there, also an important thing, and it makes sure that it doesn't gripe so much, so it doesn't give you intestinal cramps, and it doesn't do that along. Rhubarb is also good for cleaning out the intestinal tract and working on that. Buckthorn is another one that really works on this, and we can find that in both the gentle detox and the ordinary detox. So a lot of people are trying to figure out, did we change the formula of the laxer herb? No, we haven't changed the formula at all. It's just the way the batches go and how they work. So I'm really interested in anyone giving us feedback on that, to be able to see how it's working for you. Some people say it's too strong. Some people say it's too weak. But as we're working with new manufacturers and stuff like that, we're really thrilled to be able to get feedback to see how we can tweak it so it can be as good as possible. The gentle detox, again, it doesn't have the Cascara sagrada. It has the yellow dock and the buckthorn in there. It also has one caveat, because one of the other complaints people had in the past is FOMO. Literally FOMO. Now it's disappeared on me. So I'm going to go back and see if I can get it. You get one cheat meal per week. What that means is, again, you have that special birthday or that business meeting or an anniversary or stuff, so you can't fit the 12 days in. Well, we'll let you have one cheat meal. But that really means you're not going to go through the metabolic changes the 3rd day, the 7th day, and the 11th day. But at least you've done the cleanse and done that whole thing to be able to work with it. I hope that's answered your question. I'm trying to speed this up a little bit because I'm taking a little bit longer than I thought I was going to be doing. Really, what we're trying to do is we're trying to work on the liver, because it really has a big function of how this is. Now, when we're working on the liver, we're not just working on how the liver works. Of course, that's the center of gravity of all kinds of detoxes or cleansing. That's what it all goes through. It happens. It's not the intestinal tract, it's the liver. But it gets clogged with all kinds of emotions. And some of the emotions that work with the liver are, of course, anger, jealousy, envy, and competition. So if I have a patient come in and I know they have a liver that's not working good, I have to ask them about those emotions and maybe give them flower essence and things like that to work around that and work with it. So that's the big thing. But even if I have a person who comes in who's angry all the time, well, one of the first questions I'm going to say is, how's your liver? But I'm going to see how much they're drinking, because maybe their drinking is affecting their liver and that's affecting their anger levels and stuff like that. So all these things can be synonymous with each other. And I'm still having flashing problems. And I don't really have time to go through the various phases of cleansing in the liver and stuff like that. Maybe for another time that we talk to you, we'll be able to do that. But we're going to go through the liver support. The liver support is really good. So if, let's say, a person has fatty liver or a history of hepatitis or things like this, or where they've had a little bit of a rough go with their liver, this is the program for you. Now, we still have the billy herb here, but notice the billy herb doesn't have any milk thistle in it. A lot of people said, wait a second, you forgot a herb when you're doing the liver cleanse and stuff like that. You forgot the milk thistle. No, because milk thistle is a protective herb. It's not a cleansing herb. But in this one, because we're trying to support the liver, we do have the milk thistle in here. So it's got its own dosage in here that we're doing to be able to cleanse that out and support it at the same time. Then we have C Herbaplex. Now the C Herbaplex is not just a vitamin C tablet or anything like that. You can't use any other vitamin C, because really this is mostly flavonols, flavonoids. These flavonoids are actually building up and working with the whole thing to be able to work with the capillary beds. Because one thing I can say about the liver, really what it is kind of like a big, well, it's kind of a shipper receiver warehouse, but it's like a big sieve where things go in and it cleans out all the toxins it can before they get into your bloodstream and work with that. And these shipper receivers do that. But this big sieve is really a complex capillary bed, and the flavonoids work on building up building up the capillary beds, and that's how it really starts rejuvenating the liver. Now, if a person does have fatty liver or something like that, you want to take a lot of essential fatty acids. Again, my typical one would be krill oil, or we could use something like a fish oil or whatever. And you would do one of the other detoxes before you use this. And this is 3 to 6 months. And every once in a while, we have to do it up to 9 months, how they're doing. And it works on that whole thing. Our goal at Wild Rose is to get the most organic, the best harvested ones. So we've got very good herb suppliers from around the world, but we're tapped into the organic things, and we have been, fortunately, for 50 years, and so we're really well at that. So which is the best one for you? Well, you're big boys and girls, you can make that decision, but this is if you want your strong seasonal cleanse. This is if you want it a little bit more gentle and you want that one cheat a week, one cheat meal a week. And the liver cleanse is an ongoing thing to be able to work with the liver, to be able to support it. You always do one of these before you do one of these. Excuse me, just to get the crap out of the way, so you're not trying to work with that, and now you're just working on the liver, because that's what's feeding the whole thing. So we're using it. My slides are just going all over the place here. We're using it for many different things. We're using it for detoxification. We're working on our holobiome, working on GERD, constipation, IBS, IBD, SIBO, and we're trying to support the various parts of our body. So I did get to the end of it, and I still have time to do questions. So now I'll go into just working on the questions with people. So if you could start reading any questions that might be there, and we can go through them. And I'm going to turn off. Can you turn off the slides?
Absolutely. Great. Thank you for all of that. We will hit up some of our questions that didn't get answered during the presentation.
And maybe even ask some of the questions that have been answered, because they might be common for other people too.
Sure, absolutely. Our first question from Roxanne is, how many consecutive times can the cleanse be done?
We suggest you don't do any more than 2 in a row, and then wait a month and you can do 2 in a row again. So again, cleansing too much is just as bad as not cleansing at all. That's why I say cleanse a little, build a little, cleanse a little. But I did have one special group of patients that I had a lot of over the years. They're flight attendants. Guy flew a lot, and my clinic was in Calgary, and it's the center of some of the things. A lot of them were doing it for 10 days on and 20 days off, because literally their schedules are to work for 20 days and take 10 days off. And well, let's face it, being a flight attendant, you don't get to choose your meals that much. You're lots of times getting it out of a vending machine at the airport and your stopover, so they couldn't eat as good, but then they would cleanse during that. And they did that virtually every month, and once in a while they did a longer.
Amazing. Our next question is from Barry. What are your favorite products for a general cleanse?
Well, my favorite products are, of course, the Detox. I often add a digestive enzyme to people. And the digestive enzyme I've been using lately is the Enzymatica digestive enzyme. The one, I think, is called Digest Gold, what we've been recommending importantly. But we also suggest that you have bone broths and things like that at this time of year. In the summer, you might be having various vegetable juices and stuff like that. But we have a recipe book. If you go on our webpage or our Facebook support group, you can get all kinds of recipes and stuff like that to find out which ones have been approved and are our favorites.
Amazing. That sounds great. Barbara asks, is it safe to be on this detox when dealing with SIBO? And I think we went over that a little bit, but.
And it really depends on what phase of SIBO you're in. So it's been great for 80%, and it's been disastrous for 20%. And that means how active you are. Sometimes it's too many foods. SIBO's kind of insidious, and it takes a long time to be able to get over it and work with that. And because of that kind of phenomena, you have to be careful. So sometimes you have to be under practitioner care. If you're in a really acute stage, and if you're in a really strict diet, then there's too many foods on the detox. You might think it's restricted, but I had to restrict a lot of my SIBO patients way beyond this for the first 2 to 3 months before we can walk into it. But as you move through it a little bit more, it's quite safe.
All right. Our next question is from Suzanne. Why is this winter friendly? Thought it was hunker down time. So we kind of went over that a little bit, but maybe you can.
Well, some people think, I shouldn't fast at all in winter, and you shouldn't fast. That's why a cleanse is better than a fast. It's hunker down time, but a lot of people just want to get over some of the, should I say, indiscretions they might have had over the festive season, and some of the heavier foods that they ate, and be able to work with it that way. So it is a good time. It's not the best, but it certainly is a good time. The best is the spring, summer, or fall. Which is when you'll be doing your next talks with us. So it'll be yes, I'm doing in April. Yes, after Yeah, so as I say, after Easter, after Thanksgiving, so after the after the Easter, we'll be in your area.
Yes, exactly. So everyone can watch for you in person at a few of our stores. Our next question from Judy says the last time she did a cleanse, she ended up in the hospital with low white blood cell count. Is there any cautions with the wild rose cleanse?
No, the low white blood cell, there's nothing in here because lower white blood cells. It happened. And maybe she did a detox because she wasn't feeling good. And she also had a white blood count. That's the only thing I can suggest. Again, we have had tens of thousands of people doing it every month. A lot of them under practitioner care for many, many years. And it just doesn't do that.
Okay, sounds good. Awesome. A question from Karen. I'm concerned about having heart disease. Recently had an angiogram with 3 stents and still have an irregular heartbeat. Also going to be seeing a specialist regarding heart surgery. Is this a safe cleanse for me?
Almost for sure. And again, how many people have heart problems in Canada? Again, tens of thousands, and we've worked with them in the clinic and certainly done detoxes along the way. But really, you have to watch your carbohydrates. So again, this whole detox is really heart friendly, the whole diet, because the biggest things that are causing heart problems are not the oils that we were worried about in the 70s and 80s. We now find it's the carbohydrates that are pushing these things into the heart and stuff like that. And because it's really low in carbohydrate, it's very heart friendly. It's not like it's so powerful it's going to affect the heart. In fact, it's going to take a load off the heart.
Great. Well, a couple people are logging off, but I will mention before everyone heads out that we do have the Wild Rose Detox on sale in all of our Nature's Fair Markets stores right now for $55.99. So stop by into price. One of our stores and grab it if you're interested in doing the cleanse. But we will answer a couple more questions here. Question from Jenny. Any theories on the high percentage of IBS in Canada?
I think it's partly due to our emotional attitude, actually, and we do tend to eat a heavier diet here. I mean, especially in the mid part of Canada, it's a meat and potatoes things, and I'm not saying dissing meat and potatoes. It might be the right diet for you, but if it's too heavy, continuously done, that would really cause irritation in the digestive tract and do it. But we're also kind of emotionally reserved too, and that also affects constipation, IBS, and IBD.
Interesting. Thank you. Another question from Janet. If I've been told I've got diverticulitis, hopefully I said that right, can I still do this detox?
Absolutely. So let's just look at what diverticuli are. Really what there are is little wee pockets in your intestinal tract. So think of it in your house, it's kind of like that window seal behind your sink that might be a little bit, so you can put some flowers in front of, or a little vestibule that you might have to sit in and stuff like that. But these are really nice in your house, but there are areas where crap can be done. Or think of it as that drawer that you put all your junk in and stuff like that. Well, a cleanse is going to clean them up. There's nothing wrong with diverticuli. They're not going to be a problem at all. It's when things get trapped inside them and toxins get trapped inside them, and you have our bad microbiota in there. So you want to clean out the microbiota on a regular basis. So the number one most important thing to do when you got diverticuli is to be able to do cleanses on a regular basis to make sure your diverticuli don't inflame into diverticulitis.
Perfect. A question from Barbara. I have an issue keeping weight on. Anything I should adapt when detoxing, as I need to avoid weight loss?
Good question. First of all, it was never designed to be a weight loss program. People who are overweight often lose weight, but people who are underweight often gain weight. But the biggest thing is try to eat more if you possibly can. If you're already underweight, you're not going to lose weight, almost never. But just try to eat a little bit heartier. But try to eat really good, rich, homey food that doesn't have the carbs in it.
Great. The next question, what would be the optimum time to start 8 to 12 hour intermittent fasting, morning or nighttime? You went over that a little bit.
Morning. We suggest a person should have their first meal between 7 and 8. We like to heavy up in the morning and lighten up in the night. That's really what it says.
Great. Cheryl asks, can you use liver support when you have liver cancer?
And that's a question beyond the level of this public lecture, because that should be done under practitioner care. And with that whole thing, you should have a practitioner follow you to see how it's really affecting. Yes, it could be very helpful, but you really should be under practitioner care that's watching that.
Okay, thank you. Barb asks, anytime there's a health segment on the local news, they speak against cleansing, saying the liver and kidneys do all the detoxing we need and herbal detoxes don't work. How do you respond to this?
Well, first of all, I say in our ancestors, it probably did do everything we needed. But have I ever said that this is the most polluted time in the history of our species that we know about? So we need to have a little bit of, should I say, a gentle push with the cleanses. And of course, media is to try to sell media. Their idea is to have sensationalism. And even though they might say it, there is so much scientific evidence proving absolutely the obvious. And some people don't believe in science anymore, but the scientific things are saying this is the only thing that's proven to make you have a longer health span and lifespan.
Amazing, thank you. Just to confirm, we should do one cleanse before the liver support?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Question from Jenny. I have a question about wormwood. I read that 150 milligrams wormwood per day for 12 weeks helped with joint pain.
It can help with inflammation and help get rid of parasites out of your digestive tract. So wormwood is a great supplement, a great herb, but I can't make comments on individual health problems without actually seeing that person. So I'm not wanting to prescribe or do that. It has to be able to suitable for you as an individual, and I don't know that.
All right. Next question. If I take regular iron supplements for deficiency, should I continue taking it during the cleanse?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, the answer is no, you shouldn't. And it's not because it's going to hurt you to do the both, but you're basically wasting your iron during that period of time because we're literally flushing things out to a degree. So we stop most of our vitamins and minerals while we're on a cleanse. We can do all of our herbal supplements or metabolic things. And of course, living where we live in the Arctic, we still do our vitamin D. Truly, vitamin D is not a vitamin. It's really a hormone. And it's something that we should take on a very regular basis. The only other thing is really proven longevity here is vitamin D. It's really been very important, this whole thing. So I'm really a very big advocate of take your vitamin D in the winter. You might not need it in the sun, but some people never go outside in the sun anymore,
true,
even
yes.
in the summer. So they might need to take it all year round.
All right. A couple more questions here, and then we'll have to close up for the night. You just kind of touched on that, but are there any other vitamins you should avoid or take during the cleanse? Basically, vitamin D and your other ones are going to get flushed away, right?
Well, vitamin D is not going to get flushed away. You can do that. They're going to be flushed away, but they're not going to hurt you. So I'm just saying you save a few bucks. That's all I'm really saying.
Yeah. And what about the Ovid shots? Will these cleanses help clean up our bodies?
I don't even know what the Ovid shot is, so I can't comment on it.
Probably the COVID shot, I'm assuming.
Oh, COVID shot.
Yeah.
Are they going to clean up anything that's happened because of the COVID shot? I think that's now the question.
Yes, that's the question. Yeah.
I can't go as far as to say that that's true. This is the time where science didn't serve us very well in my mind, and it might have filled us a bill of good. It certainly made a lot of people really rich and having condos in Bermudas and stuff like that. Made a lot of money off that whole thing, but I don't know if it was the kindest thing. But if you have good nutrition, you cleanse on a regular basis, you can slowly get rid of that things. And here might be a place where that wormwood could come in to be able to work on that, to be able to get any strains of that out of your body. Great.
And last question for the night. that have never done a cleanse before, do we drink lots of water during this cleanse?
Thank you. That's very important. You want to hydrate during the cleanse, of course. I didn't see it in the slideshow. They give me different slideshows for different groups. This was one really designed for you guys. And the hydrating thing, I don't think was in there anywhere. Yeah. Or maybe I just skipped over it.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for this evening. Thank you for everyone for joining us. And just another reminder that all of the cleanses are on sale right now at Nature's Fair Markets for $55.99 until the end of the month. So if you're interested in trying one of Dr. Terry's cleanses, please stop in and grab one. All our team members at Nature's Fair are happy to answer any additional questions you may have as well about the cleanse.
Okay, well, it was great seeing you, and I hope to actually see some of you in person in the spring. That would be really fun. Until then, I'll say goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.